Today we have a treat, and this is a review copy that was sent to me. This movie doesn't come out till November 12th. Today's November 6th, and I've had these for a couple days, so I've had plenty of time to dive into them, check out the special features, just really mull these over. And I had such a great time with these, and I love Saturday afternoon films, and so that's something I talk about all the time, and these fit that 100%. Now, I remember being a kid, and a lot of these films you could find at bargain movie basements and the dollar bins, and those were always available for home video as the cheapest way possible. So I know that a lot of these movies, well, for most people, they kind of fell by the wayside. For any of us kids growing up in the 80s and 90s, you had a few dollars in your pocket. It was easy to grab one of these and just fall in love with these old classic monster movies, classic rubber monster suits, and Roger Corman classics. You probably watched at least one of them with the hundreds of titles under their belt, the production company they had, and just the movie stars that to this day have kind of paid their respect, but also had a real connection with Roger Corman.
There's nobody in there that he didn't, in the most important way, support. He was, my main my lifeblood.
And Film Masters as a whole, I think, is just really putting so much care and love back into these old films. It really is keeping Corman's legacy alive in these classic B movies. Now, these movies were made as cheaply as possible and they were cranked out super fast. People have talked about them to death that most of these movies have plot holes and they were just thrown up on the big screen to give you a double feature in the drive-ins. Now, while that's all true, because like I said, most of us found these as kids in the bargain basements, there has been a new life found in these over the past my entire life. But recently, having film masters restoring them and extending the life of these, there's one film in here that was extremely damaged, and they did an amazing job in the restoration. And so we're talking about Night of the Blood Beast and Attack of the Giant Leeches. This is a double feature from Film Masters. I have the links down below. Pre-orders are available now, but it doesn't get released until November 12th. This is was just an extremely fun set of movies to dive into. And if you've never purchased anything from Film Masters, the one thing I love that they do is just there's an attention to detail that some of the other companies kind of, it was an afterthought, I think. So one of my favorite ones, Olive Films, they're defunct, they're no longer in business, but the spines when they're on the shelf, they kind of up and down. They don't really match where this one does. So I only have 3 of the films, well actually 4, because I haven't reviewed this one yet. So they did send me another review copy, but that one's been out for a while, so I didn't want to get that one right away. So 4 movies right here. The spines all line up. The logo, the Filmmaster logo, all lines up, and the Blu-ray here. So when these sit on a shelf, it's just perfect. And so for me, that little bit of attention to detail goes a long way. And as I delve into these, the amount of special features that these older films that most people just don't care about was great. It was something that I really didn't expect anytime that I've been diving into these films. But this one in particular was great. Both movies had Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, the entire episode, because they featured each of the movies in there. And so I don't know what it cost to be able to put that on there, but to get the rights to be able to add that as a special feature was just really cool. And it's something that, it's a show that I remember kind of watching sometimes when I was a kid, and it just brought back all those memories. And it just reminded me that right there introduced a lot of younger generation to these old classic B movies as well, as we dive into it before we get into all the movies. But the restorations on these were just absolutely top notch. But you're always going to get a booklet with it, which includes all kinds of like background information, production photos, stuff that just hasn't been seen in probably decades. So this is just actually awesome. They always include, so far, every single one I've gotten has included a booklet that has that same kind of love and attention to detail. But then you have the disc art. I'm a huge fan of it, and the fact that it's a double feature, they could have easily slapped these movies on one disc and called it a day. But the fact that they each got their own disc, absolutely top notch. So this company for me is a high 10, high recommend, huge fan. Now, if they didn't send me the copy, I would have the same thoughts because, like I said, I absolutely love these movies, and I've been just enjoying them since they came out. Now, diving into the movies is a whole nother story. First, we have Night of the Blood Beast. This one came out in 1958. This is just classic creature feature staple if you're into monster movies in any kind of fashion, 50s horror, and just everything is just perfect. But then you have the rubber monster suits, and those are just my absolute favorite. As a kid, rubber monster suit movies, those were my go-to. It's something that you could laugh at it, you could enjoy it, but there was something to always appreciate it. And if you ever wanted to get into movie making, I think like that special effects and just that level of what they're doing was very intriguing. And that's how I always felt about these films. But this one right here, how it was restored was absolutely amazing, because this one had the most amount of damage that I had ever seen. And so I didn't have anything to compare it to, but I remember seeing some older stuff. I kind of remember that Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, and it showed all the grain and the fuzz and all that stuff. But this one here, it included as part of the special features a whole side by side of the original damaged film and how they did the 4K scan and the restoration and how they fixed it. And that was just absolutely top notch to see how much actual repair they had to do and the quality difference from what you were getting originally, and to then, because just a simple 4K scan would still show a lot of the damage problems with the film. They went through and restored it, fixed it, and the parts that they couldn't, there was a whole disclaimer at the beginning of this where they said that they cut some of those scenes out, and it created some jump cuts. Now, as I watched the entire thing, I honestly only recall 2 of those jump cuts, but there was no giant gaps in the story. So it was just like one frame, and it was just a very noticeable, there's a jump cut. And if they didn't put that disclaimer, I almost would have thought that's how it was filmed, because obviously the Corman films were always known for cutting corners and doing things as cheaply as possible. So I just would have assumed that's what it was, not knowing any better. But it didn't take anything away from the story, and the fact that they were able to preserve this as well as they did for the next generation, I think is just absolute top notch. Night of the Blood Beast. Now, this is one that it's just an enjoyable story. If you haven't seen it, it starts out, there's this NASA astronaut, he crashes to Earth and he dies. Like, that shows you that in the trailer, and then he comes back to life. They also show that in the trailer, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything. But then, you find out why he comes back to life, and it's just an interesting thing. But, I think for this one, top notch monster suits, super fun, just a really good story. Now, going into Attack of the Giant Leeches, for me, that was the better of the 2 films, because one, I thought it was just a really fun thing. I liked the giant leeches monsters. You see them a little bit more early, not as suspenseful there. But then you have Yvette Vickers, and as far as vintage vixens go, top notch. Big fan. And, little secret, I'm a leg guy. Always have been, always will be. And there's that opening scene. She's rubbing lotion on her leg. And all it reminded me of is the scene from A Christmas Story when the dad gets the electric lamp, and then the kid, he's doing the narration and he calls it electric sex. Exactly how I felt about it. It's exactly what went into my mind, because back in the day, back in the 50s, there was no nudity. So, a pinup girl or pinup style girl with showing a little bit of leg, that was pretty much all the sex appeal you were going to be able to get away with in a movie. And just rubbing lotion on her leg, that's what it was. And so, top notch, big fan. And Yvette Vickers, definitely on my radar for vintage vixens. But then on top of that, they included in the special features a whole slew of pinup photos of Yvette Vickers. Just the extra that they went to for both of these films, really top notch. Now, most of these films have been put out numerous times by other companies, but without the restoration and without these special features. Now, I would assume that this type of story was influenced so many modern stories that I've seen, because it's kind of a similar thing. You have local backwoods people, near the swamp. They find out that there's these giant leeches that are killing people, and that's why some people were disappearing. But then the local police, they don't believe them. And that's basically the premise of the story. Just another fun, enjoyable monster film from the 50s. And both films did include ways to watch the full theatrical version in a widescreen format, but then in like a TV spot where you had the black bars on the sides and the different aspect ratio, it offered all of that. And so just really cool that they were able to add all that extra stuff in, because most companies don't. So this is just a win for me. Huge fan. and just an ode to the Corman brothers, the B movie classics, the drive-in movie theater, and the Saturday afternoon film. All around top notch as a company, but these are just all around fun films as well. And I highly recommend picking one up November 12th. Check out this for more movie reviews, and remember to watch a movie today, and I'll catch you guys next time.